Welcome to the Not All Love and Light podcast. I'm your host, Romy Moreno, and today we have my really good friend, Erika Mejia. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. So Erika is the founder and CEO of Flexibella Couture. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about your journey and how you started that.
It's a very long story, but it just goes to show that where there's a will, there's a way, right? 2013, with my now husband, who was my boyfriend then, he was really into bodybuilding, and he was about to start preparing for a show. He was like, I don't think that our relationship is gonna work out while I'm on prep because, I have to live a very restricted lifestyle. And I was like, well, then I guess let me prepare for the show with you. And I started preparing for a bikini competition with him. Well, he was bodybuilding, I was doing bikini. Throughout that time, I was looking for a bikini to wear. And I didn't know, I didn't really know much from the industry. I had one friend that was into that. So I approached her and I was like, hey, I need a bikini. Where can I get one? When I went online and saw the prices of these bikinis, I was like, wow, I'm not going to pay $500 for a bikini.
That's how much it costs?
That's how much they start at.
If
you want like a fully embellished bikini, $500.
Wow.
So I was like, I'm very crafty. Let me just get a plain bikini and I'll put the rhinestones on it. So I bought the bikini for $150. And then I went online and bought some rhinestones from like a bead store, but it wasn't even like a lot. I still ended up spending like $350, right? And it was like the most minimal design, which now on my website, like I charge $250 for what I did for myself, right? And so I did that and Miguel was like, wow, you're actually pretty good at this. Why don't you start your own business doing this? You can make a lot of money. And I was like, well, I don't know how to use a sewing machine. Like I've never, I'm really good at using a glue gun, but I've never used a sewing machine. He's like, so learn. And I was like, all right, well, where the hell am I going to learn? Do I need to go to fashion school? Do I need, So I asked his mom, I'm like, hey, do you know any like little old ladies that would be willing to teach me how to sew? And she's like, let me call a few. And like nobody would come through, right? So then I went on Craigslist and I was trying to schedule with a certain woman and like our schedules were very conflicting and like I just couldn't find anybody. So literally 2 years went by and like this idea just kept marinating. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do? I didn't want to work for anybody. I went back to college. I lasted like a half a semester. I'm like, this is not for me. I tried to look for a job. I started working at Equinox as a personal trainer. I freaking hated it. I'm like, I don't want to work for anyone.
I feel you on that one.
Yeah. So one day I was like, you know what? Let me go online and see if there's like any online courses that I could take that will show me how to do the basics of a sewing machine. So I found it. And then for Christmas, my mother-in-law gave me $500 and she was like, here's $500, buy your sewing machine. So I bought two. I bought a regular home sewing machine and then I bought a serger, which a serger is very different from the home sewing machine. So I watched online courses to learn how to use two different types of sewing machines on my own. Then the other leg of that was I became friends with some random chick on Instagram that was a competitor all the way in California. And she had a team of girls that she coached every year. So I was like, hey, look, I'm trying to learn how to make bikinis. I want to start my own bikini business. If I made your suit for free, would you send me your clients? And she was like, yeah, go ahead.
Hell yeah, I'm saving $500.
So I was like, all right, well, I just got my sewing machines. Hopefully by March, which is when the season begins, I'll have something ready for you, right? So I get my machines in November. And from November till March, that was literally 4 months? So from March to November, I practiced. I practice. And then in March, she was like, hello, the season is about to start. Like, you haven't sent me a sample. Like, I need to start sending you my girls. I was like, oh my God, like, I'm freaking out, you know? So I made her bikini. I sent it to her. This was, what, 2013, right?
Going into 14,
No,
if you started.
no. I'm sorry. This was in 2015 that I finally launched.
That's right, 2 years.
That I finally launched. So now we're in 2023. It's been, what, 9 years? I would say like the first 2 or 3 years of me doing this was a lot of trial and error. So she started sending me the girls. I would say in 2015, the first few clients was about 30 clients that I serviced that year. Then the following year, I think I serviced about 50 girls. I mean, it's like I look back and see my work then compared to it now. It's like night and day.
Night and day.
Because obviously practice makes perfect. I started off charging like pennies for a bikini back then, you know? Now I've earned my stars. I still don't charge as much as a lot of other designers just to keep the prices competitive. But here we are 9 years later. I work with some of the top athletes in the bodybuilding industry. I have girls that are the best in the world that have won like world titles now. And 9 years later, this past year, I think I made about 120 competition suits and about 100 practice suits all by myself between February and December.
That's amazing.
And now instead of charging pennies for one of my suits, for a fully embellished bikini, when I first started, I was charging $400. And that's like fully rhinestoned front and back. Now I'm charging between $700 and $1,500.
Wow.
Which is like a big price jump. But the quality of my work has improved insanely.
And you've grown as well.
I've grown as well. The quality of my work has improved dramatically to the point where I have seasoned competitors finally try me out and they're like, wow, I've been competing for X amount of years. I've used X, Y, and Z, and I've never had a bikini fit me the way yours fits me. You know, I've never had a bikini stay up the way yours stays up. I don't know. It's been very gratifying seeing like all my hard work finally be recognized by so many people. You say the name of my brand, and people are like, "Yeah, oh my God, I've heard of her. Oh my God," you know. And so here we are. I'm about to take off on my 9th season, you know.
I'm so proud of you. Erika and I know each other for over 20 years.
High school friends.
Yes. So to see your growth, doing stuff that actually helps other people, it's a beautiful thing. And I love the fact that you tried something that you had never done. And because you did that, this came from it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people tell me, like, you're growing so much, like, you need to hire someone to help you. And, like, yeah, I'm at a point where, like, I'm freaking killing myself. But it's like a part of me doesn't want to sacrifice the quality of my work, which, all right, fine. I can find someone to sew for me. But right now, I don't have the space to be working with someone along my side, you know? So that's definitely a challenge that I'm facing because I'm just going to keep growing. Kind of like a fear as well, you know? I hate working with people. Why? Because you start to deal with other people's shit, you know?
Right.
Or maybe they're going to deal with my shit, you know? So I try to take on as much as I can. I kind of bit a little more than I could chew last year. It was definitely a learning experience. So every year I sponsor a group of girls. And in return for me sponsoring their suit, they promote my brand. They send me referrals. And I was just like, you know what? Let me sponsor 12 girls. I've never sponsored 12 girls.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And so that's 12 bikinis that I have to make. So I'm just going to give you a breakdown of how competing in the bodybuilding world works. I mainly work with athletes that compete in the NPC and athletes that are in the IFBB Pro League. When you start competing in the NPC, you do your first show, and that's part of the NPC, which you can go to a show that's held locally within your region. When you compete there, if you win first place or the overall, you qualify nationally. Then you go and compete at a national show. At the national show, if you win first place or sometimes second place as well, you win your pro card. Then you become a part of the IFBB Pro League and you become a pro athlete. When you become a pro athlete is when you start to compete at the shows for money. So anywhere between first and fifth place, you receive a check. Not a lot of money. Some shows will grant you $3,000 for winning first place. Others will just give you $1,000 and then it just decreases, up until third place or fifth place. But that first place winner qualifies you for the Olympia. So the Olympia is like the bodybuilding, like the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. And this is like every athlete's dream, to grace the most prestigious stage in the world, because this is where everybody from all over the world competes that is like the best of the best within the league.
It's the Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. It's crazy to see my work on that stage now. It's crazy to see how when one of my athletes wins one of these shows the following year, like you see my bikinis like all over every elevator. It's crazy. It's really crazy because we come from like not an easy life.
Right.
Not an easy life. A lot of trauma, a lot of instability. Stop.
I don't think I've ever cried on a podcast. I just love you so much. Like, we're such good friends. And even though like
we barely talk,
the connection is just there. And like to see this for you, it just makes me so fucking happy. So sorry. I don't mean to be like bawling on here.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I finally went to my first Olympia this past December. Well, because it used to be held in September, but because of COVID, they moved it to December like the past few years, right? My daughter's father couldn't make it with me, which he should have been the one there with me because of him.
Right.
This all started, right? Had it not been him being a bodybuilder and competing and me just wanting to compete with him, this would have never transpired. But he couldn't because of all the procedures he's been going through. I said, well, who else? My mom, my sister, and my daughter. And I took them with me, and my mom would just be like, wow. Like, she was like, I can't believe this. She was just like, look at your suit. One of them is up there, And on Friday morning when I went to prejudging by myself, I was literally sitting in that crowd and I was holding back my own tears as I was like, holy crap, this is crazy. I have, within all this group of girls, I have literally 8 girls right now in the pro part. In the amateur show, I had another 5 girls, and I was like, who would have ever thought? Who would have ever thought, Here I am about to start the next season. It's just it just keeps going and it just keeps growing.
You do have to consider delegation.
Yeah.
And I can tell you from experience, because I've had that mindset where I'm like, no, there's always going to be certain things that only you could do, right? But then there's other things that you could just narrow down and be like, okay, I could delegate this and make your life easier. And it's the losing a little bit of the control, right? That you'll find more peace later on.
Yeah.
From experience, I'm telling you. Because I was always like, nope, I want to do everything by myself. I don't need any help. Nobody's going to do it like I do it.
Exactly.
I know. I know. But you're only going to cap yourself. And that's not what we're doing. Right. And I know working with people is very hard. I've experienced it myself. And it's just finding the right person, vetting them, and always following your intuition.
Yeah.
If something doesn't feel, in alignment. So you do have a daughter. She's 4 and you're married. So how do you balance this successful business and your life?
It's hard to make a balance. It really is. And I've spoken to you about this before. Like, I want to live on my own. Like, we live with my mother-in-law. And it's like, I want to have my own four walls. But, like, in the last couple years, despite, like, whatever drama happens between us, that little girl, the apple of her eye, and she comes through for me. Like, she's such a savior when it comes to taking care of my daughter when I can't, because I'm like drowning in so many orders that I need to get out for my clients, that she takes her to the playground for me. She takes her to the children's museum for me. She takes her out everywhere so that she's not bored because she's not in school at the moment. It also has helped me stay beside my daughter and me not having to depend on a daycare to pretty much raise her. You know what I'm saying? And like, unfortunately, that's what happens with a lot of parents.
Yeah.
So, it has its pros and cons. The fact that I run my own business, I can have the liberty to take whatever time off I want, go on whatever trips I want. Like, I don't have to answer to anyone, but I need to make sure that my orders are out on time,
Yeah. I want to touch on something that you said there, because a lot of people don't realize how important this is, which is something that I had to learn when I went off on my own. When you have your own business, you're your own boss. Yes, there's pros and cons. It's great. Everything you said, I agree 100%. But you literally have to train yourself to be your own boss, because nobody's on top of you. Like, you haven't turned this in. You haven't done this. You haven't done this. So what happens, which is what happened to me in the beginning, I'm like, nobody's telling me what to do. I could do whatever the fuck I want. And nothing was getting done. Right. So creating that structure and really being on yourself, like, yes, I could take this time off, but I got to get this done.
Yeah.
So anybody that wants to start their own business or is looking into, going off on their own, that's something that is, I feel, the number one thing business owners need to do. You need to be your own boss in that way.
I have arguments with Miguel about this often, because he's like, but you run your own business. Like, how do you not manage your time properly? Like, one of the biggest issues we have is he's a gym rat. I mean, lately he hasn't been able to go to the gym because his knee surgery, but you manage your own time. You can take out an hour, 2 hours to work out. Like, and sometimes I'm like, no, there's days where I have to wake up and work on a suit or two for that day. And that's 6 hours on one suit, another 4 hours on the other. Like, do you honestly think, like, yes, that's what I struggle with the most, is balancing my time. But I just know that, hey, I'd rather set everything aside, which is also not a good thing, but I set everything aside in order to be able to fulfill my orders, get my orders out on time. I like to get them out about 2 to 3 weeks before the competitor has a show, in the case that any alterations need to be made, they have time to send it back to me. And then there's times where I don't even meet that threshold, and I'm just like praying to God that there's nothing wrong with the way their suit fits, which, granted, I'll give it that much. I have about a 99% success rate when it comes to a suit fitting a client. There's very few times where they're like, it's a little tight, or maybe we need more coverage, or maybe we need less coverage. That's another thing. It's crazy how, like, in a matter of 9 years, I've literally trained my site to measure someone through a picture.
That's amazing.
And, like, there's girls that, like, write to me. They're like, I'm all the way in Canada, and, like, you literally just made this suit for me. You've never met me a day in your life. You don't know what I look like in person, but, like, through a picture, I cannot believe you made me a suit that fits me like a glove.
That's amazing.
And, like, within the last 2 or 3 years is where I've actually gone international. So that's another thing that also, like, freaks me out. Like, at one point,
Mrs. Worldwide.
Yes. At first, it was just, like, throughout all of the United States. Like, I service girls from every state possible. But within the last couple of years, I've sent to Austria, I've sent to Germany, I've sent to Australia, I've sent to Singapore, I've sent to South Korea. I I sponsor a South Korean chick now.
Wow.
And everybody wants to be like her out there. So the amount of girls that ordered from South Korea last year and the year before was insane. And so now I'm just like, holy crap. I'm like literally sending suits to the other side of the world. And I'm not even meeting these girls. And the suits are fitting on them perfect. But yeah, I struggle a lot with that, with the structure of, I need to learn to make time for myself because I'm making only time for my business, and whatever other time I have left, it's for my daughter, for me to do laundry, cater to my husband, cater to my daughter. But that me time is what I struggle with the most, which is something that I really want to try to implement this year.
You have
no
to.
matter what.
You have to. And honestly, what works for me, because I was there too, was a schedule and sticking to that schedule no matter what. Like from this time, I'm working out soon, but these 30 minutes, I'm going to go do, whether it's workout, whether it's meditate, whether it's going for a walk, whatever it is, that time on your schedule is just as important as the time you put to do the suits.
And it's so crazy because, like, I talk to him, I have, like, that internal dialogue, and I'm like, you bitch, you'll make an appointment to go get laser hair removal, and you'll literally set that time apart, but, like, you're not making the gym a priority. Like, so you make the time for other things, but when it comes to you, like, you just continue to put yourself, like, in the back burner.
We have to stop that, because anything that's a priority, you'll make time for. Right now, you're not making that a priority. You have to, because mentally you need it.
Yeah.
But you're doing amazing. I'm so proud of you. And you're such an inspiration to so many people. Like you said, we don't come from these backgrounds where we were given everything, right? And you being able to figure out this and grow so much. It's amazing.
Yeah, I just remember, like,
at 4'11", growing so much. You're 4'10", 4'11". You see, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember knowing that I did have what it takes, because I've always been so into, like, making, like, really cool Halloween costumes in the past, and that's, like, what people always knew me for. Like, holy shit, like, you made that? So I was like, I knew that I had what it takes, but when it came to, like, the sewing aspect, I'm like, what? Like, how am I? And I just learned. Now, it's like, I know the bare minimum, but it's what helps me make a bikini. You know what I'm saying? Like, if people tell me, like, oh, can you make this dress for me? I'm like, no. No, I could just make a bikini. I could take in your pants. I could fix a little hole, but that's as far as, like, my knowledge takes me. And a part of me does want to, like, sign up to some type of course that, like, helps me expand, like, more of, like, knowing how to use a sewing machine.
Right.
But I don't have the time. I don't make the time. I'm getting busier every year. So it's like,
delegation, girl. That's where we're at this year. Yeah. You have to, because I see you blowing up even more this year, and you're going to just tap yourself out.
I've already tapped out.
And it'll affect every aspect of your life.
To the point where, like, my hand is just, like, my left hand is so messed up right now. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to make it through, like, another 100 and something competition suits, Right. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now. My husband wants to open up a business, and we literally had a whole conversation the other day. He was like, I see where you're at. You're growing at, like, a crazy rate. He's like, but how much longer can you do this? Like, how much longer can you continue putting yourself through it? I saw you killing yourself last year. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I'm kind of at a crossroads right now.
You gotta listen to him. He's hitting the nail right on the head, because there's only so much your body could take, especially if you're not taking care of yourself mentally and taking those breaks like you need. You're tapped out now. This is nothing compared to what could happen. So we'll focus on that. This year I'll be on your ass about it. I'm great at that. All right, Erika, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing such an inspirational story, and so grateful to call myself your friend. Yeah. See you grow so much. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, it's not all love and light.